People, Deluded. I'm here with another special guest, my good friend, but I'm going to let him introduce himself, man. Talk to the people, let them know who you are and what you're about, my guy.
Yes, my guys. I am Coach KOJO from London, obviously. I'm a football coach, PE teacher. I do my own podcast, Free Midfield, also part of the visual group Footy Says, where we interview people within the game, fans of the game, just talk about the most current topics. With our podcast, we talk about full matches, highlights of players, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a bit about me, really. I'm just about here. I'm a big football fan, Man United supporter. I was gonna wear my shirt today, but it's in the wash. So
I'm correct. We might have had to edit that out, man. But no, man. On the topic of your podcast, let them know your socials and where they can find your podcast and stuff, man. Like, let them know that as well.
Yeah. So my personal Twitter is at Coach KOJO. My Instagram is Coach_KOJOB. My podcast, Free Midfield, that's the number 3, not the word, the number 3 in midfield. And for Footy Says, so you'll find us under Footy, I think it's Footy_Skit Says on Twitter, and FS Uncut rather, sorry, on Instagram and YouTube as well. Very important. Also, if you're looking for my podcast to listen to it, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, Free Midfield, also the number 3.
Make sure you send me all the links to that as well, because I'll put it in the description and obviously make it easier for people to go find you and whatnot. But
no problem.
Yeah, man. Sadly, you mentioned you're a Man United fan. Like, sadly, for as much as I like you, it's a rather sad case. You know, you've got overrated players like Paul Scholes and Giggs. I had to do it. We're not here on the war thing. I'm banning him. But like, yeah, unfortunately, my good friend's a Man United fan, but that's the only bad word I could say about him. But obviously, I'm not a Man United fan, and people actually have my channel kind of, how would I put it, kind of mixed up, because don't get it wrong, don't get twisted. I'm at the Emirates now. I love this club, but people think that's all I care about. Like, I love Arsenal with all my heart, but I like to speak about football in general. Now, you're a United fan. I can kind of quantify what's going on at United, but in the same way I'm living and breathing Arsenal, you're living and breathing that thing. So I just wanted to pick your brains and stuff, really and truly. First of all, the season's not done. We thought the season was going to be done at one point, but it's back. Now, I can't imagine too many opinions are going to change on players in terms of how their season's been in the last few weeks. Who's been your player of the season from a United point of view, if you had to pick one at a push, if there is any?
Player of the season, I'd probably have to give it to Marcus Rashford. Yeah, the maturity in his game is starting to show now. He's becoming a lot more confident in his game, a lot more consistent. Obviously, the injury held him back. He had a serious injury with his back, so that comes from overplaying him. I would blame the manager and the medical staff for that, because they knew that he was injured for a while, but they were giving him, I don't know, injections and so forth. Sometimes he just got to say,
naivety.
Naivety.
He wants to play all the time and not saving him from himself, really.
Exactly. And sometimes as a coach, you just got to say, look, for the longevity of your career, for you to be in a better place, it's better for you to miss maybe a month rather than 3 months, which has been the case. So despite that injury, or before that injury rather, he has been fantastic for us. He's been our best player in most games, especially with
penalties as well, inflating numbers.
Goals are goals, man. Goals are goals. I say calm, you know what I'm saying? But no, he's done his thing, and you know, we've missed our other key man in Pogba. So you know, you look to someone else to take the reins, and he's done it in every way he can. He's been really much the driving force of the team. So it's been a very good season for him, and now he's looking fit. He's training well, no issues with his back right now, because obviously we had the pandemic, so that's kind of aided him in resting a lot more. Yeah, so hopefully when we start football next week, we'll see Rashford back at his best. Hopefully.
I mean, from an outsider looking in, I like Rashford's. I mean, we banter, like I said, you banter Arsenal all the time. I banter United. But jokes aside, I think Rashford's had a quality season. From an outsider looking in, I think one of Rashford's problems was he's almost like a 9.5, a 7.5. In that 1 minute, he's a winger. From what I believe, he's come through the academy as a winger. He's done his thing up front. He showed promise in both, but it's been a bit of either or. I think he's a bit of a confidence lad as well. Like, you could see he puts the weight on his shoulders and that he's the local lad, sort of, I'm Man United sort of guy. I think, you know, he's playing with clarity. I think he's someone that needs an arm around his shoulder. And he's someone I actually want to see do well because, I mean, it's nothing to do with Arsenal, but he's a local lad. He does a lot of good things with charity. From what I'm seeing, he's just focused on football. I mean, it's funny how he's praised for his charity work now, but people wanted to kill him for buying his mum, his old mother, a house. So it's lovely to see that from Rashford. But let me press you on. Obviously, he's been excelling in a wide sort of position, inside forward. I still maintain one day it might click and he can play as a striker. He'd have to improve his back to goal, but there's more to being a striker. Is the wing thing him now? Is that left wing him for you now? Is that his long-term thing?
Yeah, I think it's imperative that he stays there. Because when he came through the youth ranks and that's the under 23s before it was more the reserves, he was on number 10. With the ability to also play as a striker and as a wide man. He was the guy that took a lot of our set pieces, corners, free kicks, penalties, which he does most of now. And because he had a bit of a creative side to him, but also he knew how to run in behind the striker, sort of like a second striker sort of role. And he's sort of been able to adapt to different positions, but that's been the issue. That's one thing I don't like. I like a player that's versatile, but sometimes you got to say, this is my position, locked in. Sort of like, if now he's a left winger, I am a left winger. If you need me to play as a striker or as a number 10, I can do that. But no, I am a left winger. Yeah, and that's what I think he is right now, because as an inside forward, he is able to go down the byline and cut inside as an inside forward, as a winger. It's like he can do both very well. He's very good dribbling. He knows how to beat a player well now with his speed and sort of like ball control. And he's very good cutting in
as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's very good cutting in, and he's got a wicked shot on him. He knows how to hit a ball quite clean and strike it well. So that's much more important for me. Whereas I know Martial was there for a bit. I prefer Martial as a striker because as much as he likes to beat a player, he's not someone that makes runs in behind too much out wide. When he's a striker, it's like he changes his mind to sort of like I need to get in behind and use my pace to beat the player and then go and score. And if I have him one-on-one, then I can use my dribbling. So I think where Rashford is right now is perfect because he's sort of allowing everyone else to do their job elsewhere and do it well. So I would trust him on the left side, and I would prioritize keeping him on the left side throughout most of his United career.
All right, cool. Let me play devil's advocate now. Now, obviously, you've got Martial. 1 minute Martial's playing on the flanks. Then I still think he's a number 9. It needs to click for him one day, but I can't disagree when someone says right now they prefer him on the flanks. Obviously, you're linked with someone like Rashford. I'd imagine at some point Greenwood is going to be a main sort of player, or if not Greenwood necessarily as a striker, there's going to be a number 9 coming in. On one hand, it's good problems to have, but how does everybody feature? Because I think Rashford can play on the left-hand side, play on the right-hand side just as well. Predominantly, he's on the left. Now, devil's advocate, if he comes in tomorrow, what happens then? Like, does Rashford just go? Does Rashford move? Does Sancho go over there? Who plays through the 9 for you?
To be honest, if you ask me to go from midfield to attack, it would have to be a midfield 2 of Bruno, McTominay, and then Pogba in the hole. I would play Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, Martial up front. That's how I have to line it up. The thing is, I feel like we're in a place right now where everyone's sort of they want to fit players into certain positions because of what's it called, system and so on and so forth. And then they really don't realize that we also need as much quality depth as possible. So if Sancho comes in, if he does come in, and the United go and add another player, apparently we want this guy, we need to play every day and so on and so forth. But if these players were to come in, I wouldn't be mad. See, the thing is, you need competition. United, back in the day, when we won the treble and 3
You had bare man competing for spots, yeah.
Exactly. Up front, you had Cole and York, but then you had Sheringham and Solskjaer behind him. And then when we won the title in 2008 and the Champions League, we had Tevez, Rooney and Ronaldo. We added Berbatov. Even then, United fans were like, what do we need Berbatov for? It's competition. It's quality. You add more.
Renewing the side, yeah.
Exactly. That's what City have now. When Sané's back to fitness, Sané, Sterling, Mahrez, Bernardo. Like, the quality is madness. It's insane. It's insane. So why wouldn't you want that? Your team, like Henry, of course, like so clear. So it's hard to get someone of that quality. But then at the same time, you got someone of extreme quality like Bergkamp. And then you had someone who have to find the back of the net like Will Todd. You know, you have to have that level
people that can be called upon when the time's right and do a job.
Exactly. So for me, if we were to add him, I mean, yesterday I saw we made a bid for Chiesa. Apparently, I don't know how true that is. I don't really believe
he's a baller, but yeah, that one's a bit of a.
Yeah, I don't really believe anything until Fabrizio Romano tweets it. That's when I know for a fact that it's certified with United. No, but you know, I welcome competition. I welcome it and I love it. So if we were to add those guys, that would be my ideal lineup. But then if you want to add more, please go ahead, because we need that competition. We need that quality. That means the team will be able to compete on a higher level and hopefully achieve something.
So let me press you on this. Two things. Why is it not, and I want to use my words rightly, because I think people are harsh on Martial. Why is it not clicked for Martial per se? Because I think he's done fairly okay this season. I don't think he's been poor. But why is it not clicked for him as a striker in that when you look at, and I'm not saying people are better and worse, but you look at Highland, you look at Mbappe within reason, who's played everywhere else. You look at a lot of these players who can play up front as well as a lot of positions. Martial's kind of been about before them sort of thing, and he's not up there really, if we're honest. As great as I think he is, I think he's a baller. I wanted it. You lot should have given us him for Alexis. That would have been great. But he's not there. Like, why is it not clicking for him like that?
If I'm brutally honest, he doesn't have the killer mentality of the two that you mentioned. And
he doesn't like to stay up front either, which annoys me as well. It's like he likes to drop. He needs to learn, stay up there, man.
Exactly. It's a big problem. I mean, with Haaland's a killer. You know, he's a striker all day long. You're not going to attempt to play elsewhere. He goes, scores goals. He knows how to get in behind defenses. Even if he's approaching the defender, you saw the goal against PSG. We all did. He knows how to lick a shot. He's able to shoot from anywhere. He's not scared. That's what a killer is. Mbappe can use his pace to run in behind. He can use his pace to beat players within the middle of the pitch, out wide. He's convincing in his play. I think Martial has lacked conviction in his play for a while now. I think it's starting to build. But for me, he never had... I didn't know much about one of them. I saw glimpses of him here and there. I saw him in a game against you guys in whatever year that was.
Emirates Cup or something, yeah.
Yeah, Emirates Cup. Like, I've seen glimpses of him, but I never knew what he was about. Then when he came in, Van Gaal pretty much told us that he's like a inside forward, but then Monaco fans were saying that he's a striker. So then you're sitting back, you're thinking, okay, that in itself creates doubt, because if you've got two separate things, people saying that he's this and he's that, you're like, well, yeah, you don't know what's going on. So now that I've seen more of him, I am convinced he is a striker. I think that is his best position. Especially because on the left, you need someone that is able to track back a bit more and help out defensively. I think Rashford does that better. I think his reading of the game is better. I think he's got more IQ in the game than Martial. But if I'm brutally honest, Martial just didn't have the promise that Mbappe and Haaland did, if I'm being completely honest. And that's just the facts, whether United fans like it or not. Doesn't make him a bad player. Doesn't mean that he's not good. It just means that he didn't have the potential that they have now, back then. Because now he's, 23, 24? He's not a small boy anymore.
Yeah, so it seems like that's what keeps happening. It's always like Martial. But I get annoyed with it at Arsenal. It's like there's always players and all over. I get it that, you know, I still think it can click for Martial, because until you're 26 as a striker, you really got a lot of time, really. What was for a number of years, what was Aubameyang doing? Like within reason, like he was at St Etienne, all of these other clubs on loan or permanent, he didn't really do nothing, and it clicked for him. So it can still click for Martial, really. I just think, I agree with what you said. You said something there about lacking conviction. I don't think he plays with... And conviction is not the right word. I think he's got ability. I think he's got technical quality. I just don't think he's like you said, he's a killer in front of goal. I don't think he lives and breathes for goals. I think he enjoys football. He hasn't quite learned that, let me get into these cerebral positions and make the difference. And I don't know if it's going to click for him, sort of thing. I also feel, he's, like many players, he's kind of killed with this expectation thing, in that everybody's seen as the next this, the next that, promise this, promise that. This might have been what Martial's always have meant to have been, and he's still a decent player, but he's always going to fall by these standards of looking at Mbappe or next Henry, which he was allegedly called at a time and things like that. I don't think they helped him at all. What position? Let me ask you this as well. What roles do you, if you had the checkbook, what do you go for? Like, how do you improve United, strengthen United, or like what do you do?
Good question. I think we need another centre back. a right winger is a priority. That's a huge priority.
What? No, Daniel James.
Let's not do this. Let's not do this. No, I don't mind. Actually, don't mind Daniel James, but he's more of an impact sub. I don't see him as a star at all. So we definitely need a right winger. Another striker. I think Martial needs competition, which means, yeah, we need someone that will push him a bit more. Or
about Mason?
You know, I like
is he a striker? Because I see him as being able to play all front four positions, but sooner or later he's gonna have to master one. He can play, and I think people forget he can play. He can play like a support striker, sort of Bergkamp sort of thing, just behind him, sort of thing. So like, wait, you're a United fan. What go on for him?
Mason's a striker. That's as simple as it gets for me. He's a striker. He's a finisher. He's a killer. He knows how to find the goal. Left foot, right foot. Decent in the air. He lives and breathes goals. That's what we were talking about. A striker that lives and breathes goals. He is someone that does that, and he was doing that when he was playing for the under-23s. He was doing that for the under-18s. We used to rave about him, Gomez and Chong as a front three because they used to just literally just feed off each other and score a ton of goals. But he was the main goal scorer because he played as the number 9. He was the striker, and that's, for me, that's just the be-all and end-all. But the reason why I would call for another striker is because he's 17. I understand now. Football fans look at younger players and they put a lot more pressure because someone like Mbappe has come through at a young age and has literally torn it up. But not every player is able to do that, and that's what we need to understand. So, you know, another young player that's now doing his thing is Saka. Saka he started left wing, and he's gone left back. He's still performing, but that's 2 names I've mentioned. How many other names in the world of football at a young age can I mention? I say are doing their thing in the first team on a consistent basis, week in, week out.
King Martinelli, man.
Martinelli's coming. Martinelli, no, I like him. I like him. I'm quite envious that you guys have got him because I didn't know anything of him apart from like you did a video of him time ago, and that was my intel for him. That's why I got to know of him. But then when I see him on the pitch, I'm like, yeah, there's no lies being told. This guy is actually the real deal. I can see he's got the potential. So I'm envious that you guys have got him. But I'm also happy that we got Greenwood because we got our own potential guy. But we just need to let the guy grow. Let him develop. Let him play. If in his mind, I see him as a striker, but if in his mind he sees himself as a inside forward or a winger on either side, then let that naturally become a thing. But until then, let the guy play football. Let him grow. 18, 19, when he becomes 20, 21, then we look at him and say, okay, establish yourself in the first team, you know, make a name, the guy,
become important in that,
yeah, and then we go from there. But for me, right now he's a striker. Simple as that.
So you mentioned striker, right winger, centre
half, and yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, I think I'll take that.
Let me press you on left back because I think Brendan Williams is good, but from like, I don't know, again, I'm not a United fan, I don't know your lot sentiment, but it seems like everybody I speak to, there's a different answer. It's like, I like Brendan Williams, then I'm not sure, then I don't think he's the guy. Shaw polarizes his opinion. I do think with Shaw, his form can kind of make people think, yeah, there's someone in there. I do think there's a lot of United fans that, no apologies to Shaw, but, you know, would rather just cut your losses, bring in the next man and do that. Yeah. So is left back an area, or do you like, what's your feelings with Shaw and all of that?
I like both of them. I do rip into Shaw quite a bit. I think I do that a lot for banter reasons rather than actual truth. But if I'm being honest, I think Brandon Williams is our best left back. I think he's better than Shaw now. I've been convinced of this for about 1.5 years now. So I'm happy that he's now starting to get his shine in the first team. The thing with Shaw is his fitness. I mean, everyone obviously banters him. People call him fat and so on and so forth. He's not a fat guy. It's just he lacks a natural fitness that you need in football. You know, the ability to look after yourself properly. And it's not something I can blame on him. Someone like Wayne Rooney was never going to be a guy with 6 packs and all that kind of stuff. He was just he just knew how to.
It's just your genetics and that.
Exactly, but really knew how to maintain himself to make sure he could play games very comfortably week in and week out without you worrying that he won't be fit for the next game. Whereas with Shaw, we have that issue. And in terms of ability, Shaw is good. He knows how to get forward well. Defensively, he's okay. I wouldn't call him great. He's okay. He's not a bad cross of the ball, but I feel like Brandon Williams is better at those aspects than him. And that, for me, is a problem because Brandon is now only turning 19. And, you know, just a second ago, I was saying that you need to let young players grow. But then if he's your best left back, that puts a pressure on him to be there week in and week out, you know. And I mean,
mistakes will happen.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully for me, I mean, I hope that he does, you know, be one of those young players that has that ability to do that. And then he can go and have a long career and be successful. But I don't want to put that pressure on him also. So what you're saying about current losses with Shaw, I agree. I think there will be a time where we just have to say, look, you've had a decent career here. You've won. To be fair, he's won quite a lot of things apart from.
Yeah, no, he's done all right. He's played for Man United. Like he's had it's just been underwhelming. He's had a Premier League career, like.
Exactly, and he's won things apart from the Premier League and the Champions League, which obviously the top two. But he hasn't had a poor career in terms of with accolades. He's won things, so he's had a good career, and he's still only 20. Pardon?
He played for his country and that, so he can't really complain about that.
Exactly, England international, many trophies. I think he's still only 24 as well. He's not even that old. Like he started at Southampton from the age of 17. He was a prospect.
Let me ask you something on that. Do you think fans could do more? Because you look at it, I remember, and I was guilty, I said it myself at the time. Sure, you know, you could see him being a Man United left back and probably England for a good 10 years or so, because that's how he was playing. But in hindsight, that might have been dangerous. You mentioned Saka, Martinelli, and Greenwood, how, you know, they're taking to it. But then at United, you've got Chong, and to be fair, Gomez hasn't had a chance, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to take to Premier League football. Arsenal, we've got Nelson and Emile potentially struggling a bit for every Saka and Martinelli we have. Chelsea, you know, you've got Reece James and Mount, but you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi. So do you think fans need to do more than to just throw these labels on people, fail to understand? I ask you this because we've got William Saliba coming. I'm hearing next Varane, 6'4". He's a football, you know, he's a football guru. He lives and breathes it. And I'm not going to lie, that gasses me, but he's 19. Yeah. That will be his third season as a professional. He's going to make mistakes as a defender. He's playing against some street smart strikers and that. Like, do you think there's more fans can do with this? It just seems like we're so quick to label a man something, and by that same energy, call them a flop, failure, and all of these things. Like, people call Callum Hudson-Odoi a flop. Like, I'm sorry, but like, the man's 19 or something. Come on, like.
There is football fans. They judge everything on hype. So if you guys, if your fan base is excited about Saliba, and rightly so, I look at him as well. I think he's really good. I think he's got a lot more of a higher ceiling. He's got a lot more to grow into, which is good. But other fans would look at that and say, "Oh, so this one fan out of the millions of Arsenal fans everywhere, this one fan said that he's like Varane. So suddenly the whole Arsenal fan base feels like it's like Raphael Varane. And then it becomes a thing, and then it grows, and then maybe this young guy will go into the timeline and he'll be like, oh, these guys expect so much from me. Like, what the hell's going on? Let them develop. Like, we do put a lot of pressure on these young guys, but the one thing I have said on my own podcast is football players and clubs shouldn't listen to fans. Exactly. Too tough. Hundreds. Too tough. I mean, I understand as a fan, you know, there are fans that say the right things and they have logical opinions, and it's fine. I've said some ludicrous things, so I wouldn't tell United to come and listen to what I'm saying, because, I mean, there was once upon a time when I was saying Pereira's done really well at Valencia and he will be excellent for our midfield. 12 months later, I want the guy out of my club. This is what I'm talking about.
I'll keep it true. We've all done that. Like, no one's perfect. Everyone likes to act like they know everything.
Exactly. So, you know, for me, we need to get back to a time where I think, okay, no, this way from me. Yeah, let me explain it properly. Our teams had players where they had the perfect mix of youth and experience. And the experienced players were doing their things week in and week out. We have a time now where some clubs have that, so that someone like Phil Foden doesn't have that pressure on him. And then you have clubs where Man United and Arsenal were like the top two before, and because we're not there anymore, we look at all these younger guys and we're like, oh, we expect so much from these guys now. That should never be the case. Let these guys grow. Let these guys play, because when we signed Wayne Rooney at £30 million. The expectation from the country was high, but United fans were like, he's 18 years old. Let him do his thing. Let him play his football. He will enjoy himself. Satsousan will let him play his football. When Arsenal brought through Cesc Fabregas, he still had the experience of Vieira and Gilberto Silva there. And then when Vieira left, he came in, but he still had Gilberto Silva next to him. Youth and experience is there, someone to help you grow, and you just saw the maturity in his game. This is what we should be getting back to, you know. Realizing that these guys are not the finished deal at that age. They're gonna take time to grow. So for me personally, you just gotta let these guys play their football. Let them play their football. Let them enjoy their football. Because the one thing they don't need is pressure from outside. They need all the support.
There's already too much pressure on them. They're playing for two of the biggest clubs. Like, just using our club's examples, they're playing for two big clubs. Like, there's a lot of pressure being a professional footballer. For me, I agree with everything you said, but I'd say, I don't know if it's the right word, but is it sensationalism? I think there's too much of this sensational stuff, because I say this, obviously, Reece Nelson went on loan, 2 years or so ago. Whenever he went to Hoffenheim, he went Hoffenheim. And I remember, like, with him, as many games as I could access, I'm watching him playing it. And some games, don't get me wrong, he's bossing it. Some games, he's literally just scored, but been quite poor. Other games, he's been underwhelming. He's still learning. There's nothing wrong with this. But my problem was, there were some games he scored, but it was, you know what, it sounds dumb, but you know where you've had a game where you've just scored, you haven't necessarily done anything, you've just scored. People were taking the 30-second clips of that, saying, madman, this, that, the other. And then these same people and accounts, the minute he's come to Arsenal and he's a bit potentially underwhelming or getting to grips, they're the same, using the same energy in a negative sense. And I'm thinking, hold on, if you was really watching the game without agendas, you would see the decision-making isn't quite there. He's making building blocks, but he needs to improve. I think there's, like, you made a good point, just let man develop. Because look at Saka and Martinelli. I genuinely believe people don't look at it, because Martinelli, I always say it, him and Saka, that the honeymoon period, Iwobi had it, where you can't do anything wrong. Fans will love you. Where if they look at them two over potentially a 38-game period, it'll be different. Because look at Saka. I'm taking nothing away from Saka. He's had some good games defensively. But has he really been tested like that, where he's playing against Amares, twisting him up? Or is it really excelling in the other aspect? He's been coached through the games. Now, I take nothing away from Saka, but my point is fans just need to be easy. Like, I'm hearing stuff like, if Aubameyang leaves tomorrow, give it Martinelli. Now, listen, Martinelli has all my praise. I would not mind him 38 games in the Prem starting, but I think that's an unhealthy amount of pressure, because he is a young man. This is his first year, would be his second year in Europe. I think there's too much sensationalism with young players and and wonder kids and things in general.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with everything you just said. I can't, there's no rebuttal towards that. This is the reality. And the sooner people accept the reality, the better. It's just as simple as it gets.
Legit. Obviously, I asked you on best performers. You mentioned Rashford. Is there anyone else?
For United this season.
If you had to do a top three, Rashford's one. There's two more spots.
Okay. If I had to do a top three, Rashford, Bruno. I know it's only been 2 months, but that's how bad he's been fantastic for us. And the third one, I'll probably say McTominay.
I would have thought you said Fred. I thought Fred would have got his juice, but no worries.
Fred has done well, but Fred has done well since end of November, beginning of December. In my opinion, I think McTominay's work has gone under the radar. A lot of United fans don't like him because we're in the era of Sauce.
Yeah.
But the era of Sauce, he needs to be doing something spectacular. The boy does his job and he does it well. That's it. And that's all I can ask for. I mean, whether United fans want to admit or not, last season in the Champions League against Barcelona, he was our best player. I don't really care whatever United fans say. In my opinion, he was the player that was not beaten off the ball. He was the player that was most composed on the ball. His decision-making was good. And he's carried on his form this season. I'm not saying he's a spectacular player. I'm not saying like he's like top class. This guy just does his job and he's consistent. That's all I need. We have players like Fletcher. Fletcher wasn't a bad top player. Fletcher was a good player, technically sound, but he wasn't a standout. But he did his job. And in the big games, he performed. Against City, in the 4-3 game, he scored 2 goals. and overall in the game, he was fantastic. Real recognizes real. The guy is good. McTominay is good. We have to give him his flowers, whether we like it or not, whether he's not a player that can play 60-yard passes to the right wing. I don't care about all of that. You do your job and you do it well, I'm happy with you. And he's still been the one player that I look at and say, right now, you can't drop him. It's as simple as that. So I'll put him in my top 3.
That's facts, because my coach, I do think you need men that are less glorious. Like I think it's slightly different, and I don't want to discredit them because I think Wijnaldum has great technical ability. I think Fabinho's decent, and I think Henderson isn't as bad as people make out. But my coach used to say to me, there's piano players and piano pushers. With all due respect to, the McTominays and all of these sort of players, they're piano pushers, but they're just as important. If they don't push the pianos, the stars can't play them. And I do think in general, people fail to understand, like you said with the Fletcher one, you need men that are less glorious but can give you some consistency in a role. Not everyone, because we could argue, without naming them, at both teams, there's probably men that are great technically, but they're not doing the job, or they're not as important within the side because of the one word consistency. Like in my video, I always say I want confidence, competency, and consistency. You can't play for no top 6 team and be a star if you haven't got confidence. You need competence. If you're a defender, I want to be able to 10 games. Can you defend? And again, tying into that, consistency. There's no point being able to do it one week and not the others. And that's one pet peeve at Arsenal. I'm not really... Right, cool. Since Arteta's come, there's been certain players, but I don't really see that. Like you look at Sheffield United. No disrespect to them, because they're professional footballers. They've got more ability than you or I. But if they're going against an Arsenal or a Liverpool or a City or a United, they're not going to try and pass you off the park. They're going to do their passing thing. They're going to be brave, but they're going to double down on what they're strong at. And I do think fans don't understand that. I think fans don't understand you don't always need new players. You need to coach. I don't think fans understand stability, keeping man together. Because look at you lot for a few years. Buying people is one thing, but look at the group of players you kept. Like for years, you kept Ronaldo. Like I remember when Barca was the first team on Ronaldo, when it weren't even just Madrid, it was a Barca thing. And obviously, he had to give up at one time and things happened. But I think people sleep on that. On the flip side, though, worst performers. If you had to name 3, and I don't like to do this because obviously it's social media and all this rah and that, but
yeah. Let's see. Okay. Worst performers. Number 1, Andres Pereira.
Yeah, man. Disappointed me.
Yeah, has to be said, man. I'm quite upset with how it's panned out for him. I'm not happy. Number 2. You know what? He's featured so rarely, but every time he's featured, it's just been a disaster. Phil Jones.
Yeah, walking fire hazard. It's sad, man. It's sad in that guy's case. It's like he just needs to leave now, man. Like you're worrying how mentally he's affected, man. Because I saw an article the other day. Like he can brush off stuff, but he feels quite upset about certain things, and it's sad. But yeah. Jones. Who else? There's one more.
One more. Ooh. I don't know who I've been unsatisfied with really this season. Trying to think in terms of positions. Yikes. Okay, I'll give the third one to Lingard.
Yeah.
I know the fans are gonna love that one, but I don't think he's been absolutely shocking. I just think he's just not been up to par. That's just what it is.
Time's caught up with him.
Yeah, he had a good game in the game against City where I can't do win 2-0 or 2-1. It was away from home anyway, regardless. He was good in that game. His off the ball movement was imperative. It was so important.
About him. He can move. He knows how to move. His movement is quite good.
Exactly. So he was good in that game, but in terms of overall in the season, it's just been underwhelming. So I would give it those 3, but I wouldn't put him on the same level as the other 2 that I mentioned before him. I just think he's just been the worst out of the others. But yeah, those 2 definitely, they're the worst by far.
I'll ask you to do this and not do it myself. So now I was trying to think, who would I say top 3? I don't want to do him dirty because I still love him, but I can't, just because of how he was last season to now, I've probably got to say Lacazette. Got to throw Lacazette in there. You can't say that. Mesut Ozil as well, by default, really not really contributed as much, and he's on big money. Not that it's mattered. Second is a bit of a toss-up because Bellerin's had the injury thing, but I haven't really been convinced with Bellerin. There's been a couple games he's been good since he's come back. I I don't know with Pepe. I don't think Pepe's been top 3 worst performers. He hasn't necessarily lit up the place, but I don't think he's as bad as people think. And I definitely don't think he's been bottom 3. You're probably looking at, I even want to say the centre halves, but the centre halves been decent. Holding's looked shaky since he's been there. I think Kolasinac has been odd. It'd probably be one of the centre midfielders, really. Like, really, I'll give him tax. In fact, I don't even feel right saying Ceballos. Like, the third one would be a tough one. I'd probably say, for me, Bellerin, Lacazette, probably Ozil if I haven't said it, because Ozil's not really... you know what, as well? I don't think he wouldn't be everyone's. I'd probably say Joe Willock, you know, probably purely because just despite, I'm not looking at him as a young player anymore, really. I'm looking at what he's doing in that role. I don't think he's a 10, but I think he can have a future in the pivot. But if he's going to play in that 10 position, I need to start seeing you do what Ozil does. Like, Ozil's past it, don't get me wrong. But the way he breaks the lines, it's not even necessarily breaking the lines, because he does struggle with that. I think it's, Ozil and these attacking players, they can go hunting for the ball when they're not being given it. Like, they find pockets to pick up. I don't think Joe does that well enough. And I don't think his decision-making in the final third is quite good enough to be that 10. So, admittedly, I feel a bit harsh saying that with Joe. But, yeah, I'd probably say Joe. Let me ask you about Bruno, though. Like, Bruno, I think he has been a baller. I mean, he was coming to United for a number of years. It seemed like one of them ones just being done in the paper. He's come in January. He scored some goals. Next season, he'll be a full-time footballer. And you do see it with all of these players, even Mo Salah at a period. There is I don't want to say drop-off, but there's a natural sort of drop-off in the Premier League. Like, there'll be a couple of games they're not scoring, whether that's playing every week, intensity or whatever. Do you think fans in general, because it's not just United fans getting gassed off Bruno, I'm myself getting gassed off Bruno because he's a baller. Do you think fans need to calm it down a bit? Like, what do you think is going to happen in his first full season as a United player?
You know what's gonna hit him hard? That season for Sporting where I think he scored like 20 something and assisted about 30 something. It's one or two, whichever way it was. Ever since he got that number, the hype about him has been tenfold. The guy is. He's a brilliant footballer. But if he doesn't reach the numbers that he reached at Sporting, you know what's going to happen. Yeah. And
he can't win.
He can't win, and it's so annoying because I just watch the guy and I'm just like, look at what he brings to the team. God, I don't need you. I mean, it's fantastic that he's really started scoring goals. He's really creating goals. Like, he's doing things that I knew he could do, but I didn't expect him to do so early. He's already a commander in the midfield from the first game. You could see him telling people where to be.
Yeah, very vocal.
Very vocal. And we needed that. We need someone in that midfield that's able to just lead the line a little bit in that midfield position. And he's been sensational for us, but this is the problem. When the dip comes, when he suffers that little bit of a dip in form where he's not playing as well as he can, they're going to start trying to get on his neck. And United fans are notorious for that, whether they like it or not. They're very much notorious for that, because a lot of them refuse to acknowledge what Pogba brings to the team. A lot of them refuse to acknowledge what McTominay brings to the team. A lot of them refuse to acknowledge what Fred has done since he's hit form. They still talk about, but before that, blah, blah. Before that, yes, he wasn't great, but we need to talk about the here and now. Right now, he's performing for us.
Give man the dues where it applies. Simple as. Like, give man the
simple as it gets. If they've been poor for a lot of time, fairly give them their criticism, but make sure it's constructive. We don't need you're crap, you're this, go into their Twitter or their Instagram and talk a lot of nonsense. Give them something to build upon, So with Bruno, my expectations honestly are very high.
Damn, really.
And I feel like he's fulfilling them so far. So in his first full season, I never put a number of goals and assists on a player in terms of expectation from the midfield. As a striker, if you're the main man, I would ideally want you to at least score 20. So I would look to Martial and say, look, you're the striker, you're the leading man.
You need 20.
Try and get 20 goals from him. Yeah. That's the only position that I really, really forcefully put a number on.
But you don't think Bruno can do 10 goals, 10 assists, all comps? Like, I won't say Prem, that's a mazza, but be good for that.
I think he can, but I don't want to go out and say that because, I just want him to go and play his football. That's it. So for me, I will never look at him and say, yeah, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. I just want to play his football and just enjoy his football. Once you enjoy your football and you're, you know, you're performing consistently and you're helping your teammates get better as well as you're getting better yourself, I'm happy with what you're doing. So I think he's very much capable of getting 10 goals and assists, but I wouldn't look at him and say, do that. If he gets 5 goals and 7 assists, but his overall contributions to the team in terms of performance-wise and controlling a game and all that kind of stuff leads us to a better place, then that's what that matters for me. You know, my favorite Man United midfielder is Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes was never hitting. If I remember correctly,
player, man. That's his Paul Scholes.
He was our controller, and you know he went from. Yeah, gone.
Oh no! I was just about to. I was finish. I want to ask you something because something just went off with Paul Scholes in my head and Bruno. But go on. I'll ask you.
Okay, yeah. He went from a striker young to number 10 to a number 8, controlling the game from deep. And yeah, you know that's I think we've needed that. So someone like Bruno for our team to come and do that's fantastic. So yeah, I'm happy with him so far, and hopefully he'll continue.
Bruno's an interesting one for me because obviously when you look at, I don't want to get gassed, and I'm not, no disrespect to the Portuguese league, but you know we got to discount a number of them. No disrespect to Bruno, but we've got to discount like they got the inflated numbers and things because he's not going to get 30 odd in the Prem. Well, at least I hope so. I do think he's a quality player. But it's an interesting one for me because it's different to Pogba. But I look at Bruno and I'm not going to sit here and say I was watching Portuguese league every week. I know what he's about. I don't think he's like Lampard, but he's got that box-to-box goal-scoring element. So in British terms, he's got a bit of Lampard about him. I think when you look at how he gets up and down the field, but I think I won't call him a deep-lying playmaker, but he has the attributes of someone that sits in midfield, organises, pass the ball forward and lets people shine. And a bit of maturity with that. He's got the Man United attitude already. So I see him able to be a bit more boisterous and go forward. And maybe if he was in a team like, I don't know, like Barcelona, he could be boisterous all the time because you've got Busquets, Young and all of these guys. But when you're at United, with all due respect to everybody, he probably can't afford to do that. Like he probably has to get up and down the field. So what is his role long term? Because as a non-fan of United, it is a bit eye-rolling. Like you could have Pogba and him box-to-box-ish sort of guys together or in a free man with either Fred or McTominay. You know, that's goals, assists, pace, power, everything you could want in a midfield. They've got it. So how do you see his role shaping up? Firstly, how do you see his role shaping up at United? And what's the midfield pairing or pivot like? Because it's a good, assuming Pogba stays, it's some good options to have. Like, would you play them together? Would one miss out? Like, because regardless of what United fan I speak to, it's a different reply sort of thing.
They need to play together. That's something for me that's non-negotiable. I cannot have one of them on the bench. They need to play together. I feel like you have the perfect combination with him, with Pogba, Bruno, and McTominay. I think that's a perfect midfield for us right now. McTominay, like I said, does his job. If you tend to sit back, you know, win balls, intercept, and just play on comfortably. And he has got a bit of a better passing range now than when he first came through. He does his role. Bruno, I think what the issue that I had with Pogba and the rest of the team was when Pogba went to dribble the ball forward and drive the team forward, no one was really trying to do link-ups with him. The 1-2s you need to do in the midfield to create space. The ones that you need to, create space for maybe a wide man or for a striker, because Pogba likes to naturally drift off to the left, but he does that with the intention of obviously the opposition team shifts to the other side as well, obviously, and they will try to stop you playing football. It obviously not sits on the right side, which is what we need a good right winger for, because that intelligence is very important. It's key. With Bruno, you have that. You have someone that has that intelligence in the centre of midfield that will do the link-up play with you. He knows where to be. He knows how to make good runs. And he's also very good dribbling and moving forward with the ball as well. So you've got two players that are able to do that and do a link-up. It's so key because all the great teams that have had like a midfield 3 or midfield 2 in terms of central, they've had players that are able to do that very well. We talk about, we had Scholes and, let's say Keane. You guys had Vieira and Gilberto Silva. Liverpool had Gerrard and Xabi Alonso. Like, everyone knew their role and they executed it to perfection. So, you know, when you have that sort of intelligence in that midfield, that IQ, and the ability to link up, and everyone knows how to do their role and express their ability to the max, it's only good for the team. And they all take responsibility. So, despite people saying Pogba doesn't take responsibility, the boy takes responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for me, yeah, it's so important to have that as the midfield three. That's the base. And then I also mentioned that I think Pogba might also play as a number 10 in Scholes' role, because Scholes was with him when Pogba was in the reserves at a younger age before he went to Juventus. He was his manager. He played him as a number 10. He excelled in that role at a crazy level. He was playing well. That's why he was so adamant that he was ready for first team football. And Scholes, I think, still sees him in that mold. So, Solskjaer, sees him in that mold. So, I would have to play those two together and then have McTominay just sitting back doing his job. That for me is perfect for us right now. Absolutely perfect.
I think Pogba is an interesting one because I wouldn't play him as a 10. I would play him as in a flat midfield role as a 3. But I think he'd excel best where he doesn't have to defend. I still want him to track back, but I just want you to be Paul Pogba guy and express yourself free role. I equally agree when people say they want to play him on the left-hand side in a box-to-box sort of role. And I do think people, you know what? It's a difficult one with Pogba because I do think at times he can lack discipline, but by the same time, he does have discipline. But then when I look at this pivot, and it is eye-watering, I think of what could go wrong with the Bruno Fernandes and Pogba pivot. I think they're better. Both of them are better defensively and are more switched on defensively than people give them credit for. You look at Pogba's role in the France side, you look at Bruno Fernandes' maturity. But there probably could be situations where they're both kind of caught high up the field and it's McTominay alone, and you could easily see how he could be isolated, but it's a good issue to have. But let me press on the Pogba sort of thing now. One thing I hate about Pogba debates, and I defend this guy with all my life because I think he's got the ability, it just feels like Pogba that it's always about what he can do rather than what he actually does do, sort of. It's always about his ability and what he can offer than at times necessarily what he does offer. I say that with respect because I do think, again, there are, like you said, there's always fans that act like idiots. I think there's some United fans, Pogba can do no right to them. You know, the man could drive, despite being a footballer, earn how many millions, he drives a car expensively. He's committed a crime. He should be locked up, sort of thing. It's a bit like also fans. There's them Pogba fans that just can't call a spade at times. Like if a man's been poor, a man's been poor.
Yeah.
Where do you sit on this sort of stuff, man? Because it must be, because I can see it with Ozil. Maybe not so much now because everyone can admit, you know, Ozil's time's gone, but Pogba has been polarizing opinion.
The thing about Pogba is, and you know, me and you are very honest on here. I'm one of those. I watch as much football as I can of my favorite players. So, and if I'm watching Italian football, if I'm brutally honest, I only really watch Juventus. I don't really watch Inter and AC and Napoli like that. What I saw of Pogba is what I see now. I don't know what fans saw in Juventus. I don't know if they saw that clip of him chesting it and then hitting a long range shot from I don't know how long. And thinking that's what we're gonna get week in and week out. What I see is literally the player that we signed, and is a player that has a consistent game, but that has a consistent game in him. But at the same time, he can have 3 or 4 games where he's just not of the level that you expect. The guy, in terms of, we always say he's got world-class ability. Would I call him a world-class player? No, because that comes with also consistency. I need you to have our 38 league games. I need you to have 35 top games, or at least consistent games, good games. I don't say top games. That's expecting him to have so much good games, and then 3 that you can say, okay, he was off, but out of 38, he's not.
It will happen.
Yeah, you know, it's going to happen. In football, everyone has bad games, and then it doesn't matter who you are. But he is on the cusp of world class. I just think he needs to add that little element to his game. But I don't know what people are expecting of him. The guy is a brilliant footballer. His ability to pass, to shoot, to create is second to nobody, really, in my opinion. I don't look at anyone else in the league and think I'm envious. I know people obviously like KDB is the best midfielder in the league right now, obviously, but I don't look at him with envy because I know Pogba is just as capable of him, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, such as we're praising Fred now, but I said, we should talk about Fred here and now. But if we're talking about Pogba in general since he's been here, Fred next to him hasn't been good enough. Apart from Zlatan's first season, when Zlatan was scoring goals and Pogba was creating with him, and they were enjoying each other's company. After he got injured, the replacements up front were good enough, so his numbers dropped. And even that season where we finished second, the season where he was criticised the most, he was top of the charts for everything apart from goals in the United team. So if we're looking at it objectively, the guy has done everything that we expect of him, and probably a bit more because he didn't have that level of responsibility at Juventus. He has seasoned vets in Marquisio and Pirlo next to him.
Surrounded by better quality as well. Like, there's some players that just need that, like France and Juventus. Obviously, not to cop out Pogba, because there's, like you've basically said it, there's certain things he has to address. But I do think I think, excluding the last 2, maybe 3 seasons with Ozil, where evidently Ozil is not the player he once was. Everything you're saying, I see it at the period with Arsenal, because it's like when you sign these players and people, it's like they expect 100 goals, 100 assists to just do what they're doing in these YouTube clips, when it's not that. Like you said, you're getting the player you spent for. But, I see in the clips thinking, what, Pogba, he's Gerrard, Lampard, Xavi, Rooney, in terms of long ranges, just all thrown into one big player, and he's going to do it week in, week out. It's not Pro Evolution or FIFA. Like, can't do it. Hey, don't work.
But what? United have previous of this. See, this is the thing. Now we have Twitter. It's a lot more out there. But when we had Anderson, and then the next year he won the Golden Boy Award, the next under-21 player that's going to be a superstar. Everyone expected big things from me. His first 2 seasons, when he played against Liverpool and Chelsea, he handled Gerrard and Lampard. Okay, good. He did. What did he do after that? But his expectations are so high, so that when the player doesn't reach the expectations that you expect, you suddenly think of him as something else that he's not. And what you describe him as now is not what he is. Like, he's not that good. He's this, he's that. We do banter. What's my favorite one? Dabi Malumbu.
I remember that on Twitter. That was a good one. Dancing Malumbu or something like.
I like those ones. They made me laugh. I can't lie. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, they weren't funny. They were hilarious. But it's that kind of thing. Look at Pogba. Come on, he should be getting 15 goals and 15 assists. Should he? Should he really? I mean, is that his role in the club? I see a guy that's controlling the game from deep, and everyone knows United's football, for being brutally honest, is one-dimensional. There's not much difference to the football of United, which is why it's important that someone like Bruno came in, because now you can try and change up a little bit. Yeah, what has he always been? Counter-attack. If we're in a game where we can control the game, we expect Pogba to play passes from deep to find Rashford running in behind defenses when they're going to be sitting back. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, when there's like 2 banks of 4, like that's what fans do not understand. Like, he can't do anything.
You can't. So why do we put so much pressure on these players to do things that, quite frankly, is not in their control? And this is where it comes to tactical stuff. This is where I blamed Ole for quite a lot of the things, because I was like, as a manager, okay, I understand. Maybe you ain't got the quality of players to try and play the football that you really want to play. But you got to find another alternative. And if you put your player in a position to keep playing the same thing over and over and over, and it's not working, he's the one that's going to get the blame. Of course, people are going to get onto you. You're the manager. But he's the high-profile man. He's the key man. So they're going to look at Pogba and say, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? But you got to look at it objectively. You got to look at it properly and say, the tactics are not right. The players around him are not doing their job. So, I mean, are we going to be fair about him, or are we just going to keep talking nonsense about the boy?
And have agendas. That's the thing. Man's
exactly.
Agendas in today's day and age, man. That's probably my most annoying thing about football. Like, obviously, me and you on the banner thing, we have agendas. Like, I will diss every United player. I will listen. We know Giggs is a great player, but I will find every point to slander him, as you lot will with Bergkamp.
Yeah.
When the crap is cut, you can recognise that they're ballers. I just feel, and I don't feel pundits and coaches are any different in this light. And I know we're focusing on Pogba, and he's the best example. I think there's an agenda. Like, I don't want to list the Sky Sports guy and give him any publicity on my thing. Not that he needs it, but we all know there's a certain individual. Pogba Pogba might not even be playing, and he's catching strays. Like, no one could tell me this is not dangerous. I think, obviously, with social media and clicks, and we both know it's not necessarily the logical things that gets the retweets. It's the 30-second clips on the Talk Sports and the Sky Sports of somebody raging and carrying on. I think that's annoying. Finally, though, let me ask you this: like, firstly, what's your opinions on Oli, and how do you look at it going back into the season starting now? Because United, there's a chance you might not get top 4. There's a chance, you know, you do your thing, you might be able to get it. What's your feelings on Oli, and if he should stay and go? And what's your feelings for what's left of this season? If there is anything.
I still have some patience with Ole because, if I'm honest, in terms of good things that he's done, his transfers have been very good. Obviously, the one thing that we're missing out on is not replacing Lukaku as a striker, but he made it clear even before Lukaku left that we needed to replace him if he was leaving. So if your manager's gone out and said, look, I want a replacement, and the club hasn't done it, then I got to look at the club instead and say what's going on here. So I wouldn't get onto him too tough. And I think the caliber of players he's looked for and he's been able to bring in have been in line with what United fans want. So he's pleasing the fan base, and it's sort of like in line with the football that I believe he wants to play. His in-game management has only been the issue for me. I sympathise on some side because I'm like, okay, the bench isn't great, the backup isn't great, the depth is not good, you know, and it places a lot of pressure on someone like Greenwood because Greenwood has made a lot of sub appearances. Chonga started to make a lot of sub appearances. Gomez, not so much, but you know, he's in and about. But again, you shouldn't be depending on 17 to 19-year-olds to come and make the difference. You need higher quality, older players to come and make the difference. That's the whole point of having depth. So I have sympathized with him on that side. However, sometimes taking off certain players and not playing someone like, I don't know, Juan Mata, for example, who, despite him getting older, quite clearly has still had one of the highest quality in the team. So, yeah, exactly. So, and he's very intelligent compared to Daniel James, for example. So, you know, that in itself is something you could do. If Mata can play on the right, he's not a quick player, but he's someone that knows how to cut in and find passes.
Yeah.
And then if you want to make a change in like the 60th, 70th minute to bring in pace, someone that can run in behind, then you bring on Daniel James on that side to do that job. It can work, you know, but I don't think he does enough of that. So when it comes to the topic of the top 4, I think he's very much capable of getting it. I think he's very much capable of also messing it up, which I'm scared of, because Tottenham is a big test and they got their players back.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's going to approach that game, because now I'm nervous, because when the game was coming at that time, I was thinking they're missing so many players. They're low on confidence. This is the perfect time to play them. But now they got their boys back. So, yeah. So how are you going to approach this game? Because this is a huge game. So if he comes out of that game with a win, I will feel a bit more confident. I think he's starting to find ways to play against the lower teams that won't press as high against you. I think he's starting to find that formula, and he found it well with Bruno Fernandes as well. I think that was very key. So, yeah, I've got patience with him. However, if we don't make top 4 this season, he has to go.
Man, who comes in?
Pochettino.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, I completely forgot that guy existed.
He's sitting at home, man.
Yeah, he's just basing off. Do you know what? I think it's going to happen, you know. I genuinely believe he's probably got 3 offers or 3 indirect talks, maybe 4. I genuinely believe PSG might be an option, former ties to the club. Tuchel, depending on what happens in the champs, you'd imagine days are numbered. Real Madrid, they probably keep Zidane, but that's one on the things. United's been linked with United for years. Like that's one that could very much happen. Is there still a compensation for the pay, or I think that one the period of the compensation I saw on Sky is gone.
I think that's done now, yeah.
And I think that's the one. Do you feel though? Last question for sure, because I don't want to take up any more of your time. Is Pochettino's work with youth players overstated? Like, overstated? Because I think it is. For no criticism, I'm not saying he hasn't done good work. I think he's a quality manager. I think they make out that he's La Masia, like he's blooding through all these. I don't think that. Like, I can't see it. Like, and even with Dele Alli, if I'm harsh, and I know I've been consistent in this, I've always said Dele Alli's short-term fix is going to be a long-term problem. I say this because what he was doing at Spurs, like, indirectly a striker, like he was doing that Aaron Ramsey running in behind. I said that's good, but at MK Dons he was doing that and more. He was being a bit more Gerrard, less Lampard, and it's hurt him now because if Dele Alli doesn't score, obviously there's been games where he's played well, but if he's not scoring now, he's not necessarily playing well. That's not a criticism. That's because you're not seeing much more to his game. I genuinely thought there was a player that could dictate the tempo of a game. I genuinely thought he could be a bit more of a withdrawn role on top of doing that. So is it overstated? Because people always say Spurs the best place to be for kids. Where are all of these kids? Like, seriously, where were all of these kids?
Hey, you know what? Now that you said it, I've been sitting here thinking about Ali and any other players that they've really brought through, and I'm struggling to find names. Oh, damn, you might be right. No, you are right.
He bust Kane. I'm sure Shearer gave him his chance, but like Kane really got going under Poch. Who else?
Yeah.
I mean, Winks came. Winks is there at bats and stuff, but it's not like this is what I'm talking about. And I know you've seen that statement yourself. Spurs is the best place for young players to be, and it's not because of my Arsenal ties, because I don't think Arsenal's the best place for young players to be. But it's like, just as a man that seeks logic and reason, I'm seeing statements. I'm not seeing the data backing it up. I'm not. I'll hold my hands up if it is presented, but it ain't like there's 5 men that's gone off and played for England sort of thing.
You know what? Yeah, I can't even argue this. This is peak because he's my favorite manager right now, but I can't even back the guy on this one right now. Oh my god. Damn. You know, I'm thinking about Dele because I really enjoyed Dele Alli those first 2 seasons when he was just hitting goals and being able to create with to set up Kane as well. But he really needed Dembele and Wanyama behind him to do his thing. And once he lost that midfield, he crumbled, man.
Once Dembele went, this went down the toilet, bro.
Yeah, they've suffered since he's gone, actually. They haven't replaced him. I mean, I know Dembele has that ability, well, kind of, but that being said, if I'm being honest, we can talk about him for a long time as well, but I don't really rate him as high as everybody else does.
Straight on. Let's talk about that. I rate him still. I rate him.
I do like him. It's not like I think he's like an average player. I think he is a good player, but there's so much emphasis now on players that can dribble rather than dribble and everything else. The guy lacks fitness.
Yeah.
His decision making at times is a bit off. He's got a good passing range, but he doesn't execute him much. Like, I don't look at him and think you're a game changer. I look at him and feel like you still need help. I'm more excited about Lo Celso than him. Lo Celso.
Oh yeah. Now, do you know what? Before the break, he was decent. Like, to be honest with you, if I look at it, and I'm not a Spurs fan, so I might be chatting crap, but form might change it. But if I'm looking at it, I don't think Dele Alli's in their strongest lineup right now. If he plays form and doesn't, then he is. But like, I'm looking at that midfield. I'd probably, and again, I'm a biased guy. I always say 3-man midfield, but I think Sissoko's got to be there. He might not be glamorous, but what he gives you. I'd personally persist with Ndombele, and I'd probably go with Lo Celso there as well. So which you'd probably say Dele's got to play on the left. You can't because Son is there. Like, he's not playing up front because Kane is. Right wing, you could shoehorn him there, but I'm pretty sure they probably want to give that to a Mora or a Bergwijn or something like that. He's not necessarily there, but I feel with Ndombele, I agree with what you say. He's got that pass in him, but it's not done enough. I think it's fitness, I think it's mainly fitness, and I think his confidence has been shot. That being said, as much as I get onto him about fitness and Jose and stuff, and it reeks of the Pogba stuff again, what game was it where 45 minutes, there wasn't statistically a sprint? Like, that's got to change. That's on him. And maybe that's the reason why they take a chance on him, bigger clubs. Like, it's a madness. I think he's got potential, but I can't disagree with what you've said. Like, it's a bit of a measure.
It's a worrying one for me, man, because I didn't have much expectation of him when he came anyway, so I couldn't really speak on him like that. But man, I'm just not convinced, man. I'm not convinced by him. I don't look at him and think, yeah, you're the real deal. I don't know what other people are seeing. Maybe I just need to watch him a bit more and be like, oh, okay, he's got this, he's got that. I don't look at him and think, yo, yeah, I'm envious. I'll just go and say, okay, that's a Spurs player. All right, cool. Nah, yeah.
You know what it is for me? You know, when you've been watching a player for time, you just got affiliation with him. Like that's me with Guendouzi. I'll ride for Guendouzi to the end. I remember because Arsenal were first linked with him when he was at Amiens. Was first linked with him, but by then he went to Lyon. So I was like, okay, let me see what this guy's about. Naturally, you know, people were telling me defensive mid and all of this because of what he looks like. But then I'm watching him, I'm like, nah, he's hard, but he's completely different. I think he's different to Pogba, but I think it's the same things as Pogba. Like, obviously not like for like. Like, as far as I know, Pogba, you've never sat here and talked about sprints and all of these things with Ndombele. I think the similarities are potentially a bit misunderstood. He's now got Jose, which ironically had the same stuff with Pogba. And I don't think he knows his role because, you know, you'd probably say he can do up box to box. Has he got the fitness? You could say similar to Pogba, free him up and let him be the creative man in that role. Is he doing that? Because of who he is and his stature and, let's be honest, what he looks like, he's always going to be linked with being a defensive mid. Like, what is he sort of thing? I think until that's figured out, then maybe this is why bigger clubs didn't go for him because you heard United, Arsenal, Madrid, PSG, Spurs didn't really have a hope for it. It was seen as a coup for Spurs, and I was jealous of it. Don't get twisted, I'm happy how it's turned out right now, but I was mad jealous of that signing, bro. I'll never cap. That one there made me think, what's going on here? Like, in the same way, Bruno, I was praying Bruno's bang, praying for the medical to flop or something. Oh, man. Man, but it's been appreciated speaking with you, my dude. We've got to do this again, man. Whenever you're free, just hit me up, man. We'll speak about some other stuff.
Bro, I'm always down, man. When you drop me a message, I was like, yeah, right, now we're here now. All right, cool, let's do this. Like, it's time. Quick thing. Just for Gooners in general, yeah. Number one, never ever tolerate Bergkamp slander ever. Don't want to hear it.
Trust me,
ever. And number two, cut your losses with Lacazette. It's time to go. Sorry, it's time to go. I know you guys love him.
I know you. Do you know what it is with the Lacazette one? You've been brewing that for time. You had to sit down and be quiet for a minute. And in our group chat, I gave you a hard time. And now you're back. I can't even hate. You're back in full effect. You should be. I gave you a hard time. You know what it is? With Lacazette, I can't disagree, bro. Like, do you know what it is? I feel like a groupie. And I say that because when you're a rapper, and you know what it is? You see when rappers, you've got the mad hits, all the galleys are with you and stuff, but you see when it goes, they bust out. I think that's what happens to Laka. I think, how can a man go from being player of the season and stuff like that to now? I think you're right, man. I think the difficult one is if Laka leaves, if Aubameyang leaves, you probably have to keep Laka just for a body. I actually wouldn't mind if Laka leaves and Oba stays and we run down his deal and use this 12 months to look for another striker sort of thing. Because I don't agree with wasting money, but we're not gonna get our 50 odd back for Aubameyang. You know, we're not gonna go out there and splash on someone that's gonna give us them goals. So we're gonna have to go for a sort of youngish striker. Are they going to be at the standard to get that 20 league goals right away? They might be, they might not be. And it sounds cliche, but where would Arsenal be without Aubameyang's goals? Like, it would be ridiculous. Like, I definitely agree. Like, Laka, I don't know what it is with Laka. I think maybe it's just natural decline in what he's 28, 29 now.
He's lost his powers, man. He's losing his powers. That's it's just natural, man. You've got big potential in Martinelli. You've got big potential in Saka. I'm not sure about Reece Nelson. I don't know if he's going to cut it at Arsenal. I don't think he's of the level that you guys need. So you might have to cut your losses there as well. But you got players that are coming through, and you're always a club that's able to attract players. It doesn't matter which predicament you're in. You can attract players, and there are strikers out there that are ready to join that are, at this point, to be honest, better than him. It's time for him to go. At this point, you got to be ruthless. I don't care where the hell he goes. Get him the hell out. Like, that's what our clubs are known for back in the day. Like, if it's time for you to go, you go. Simple as that. Vieira got thrown to Juventus because he was done. He was done for. Like, he's a legend.
Like, it's true. Once you're done, it's time to.
What are you there for? No, what are you there for? Vieira was a legend. He's a legend, and he was sent to Juventus because he was done. His time was up, and you saw it when he came back to Arsenal with Juventus in the Champions League. He was dealt with.
Yeah, he got
that was evidence. That was evidence itself that he was done. And you're telling me Lacazette, who is nowhere near legendary status, who's had okay seasons in general, in my opinion, at Arsenal, he hasn't had one standout.
Okay.
He has to stay because the fans love him. Get him the hell out. Get your glory days back, man. What the heck is this?
So true. You see what it is with Laka, yeah? I agree with everything because, you know, definitely the way he's been playing. If you asked me 12 months ago, new deal, would have said new deal. since he's been at Arsenal, this is probably the period where I'm most open to selling my man, because obviously it's just not happening on the field. Like, sometimes I don't think it's been his fault. I do think with Arsenal fans, and I was a victim of it as well, and then I got a lot of heat when I changed it. I feel football fans, they do this thing when they love a player, it's like they like to shut up about things. Because it started with me, I used to say Lacazette's a very good striker, but how comes he's not getting 20 league goals? Like, we've got to look as to why he's not doing this, innit? Like, he's good enough, he gets enough chances. First season, he was injured, being subbed all the time, and all of these things all used as excuses. Then I started asking, you know, Lacazette's a quality player. Why isn't he really bagging? Why is he only bagging at the Emirates? He's not really bagging away from home. Then I was met with, he's creative, what he does. And a lot of it is true, but he's creative. What he offers the team is all of this sort of stuff. And it's like, I hear that, but it's not matching up. It's like fans don't want to admit stuff until it's too late, which is not too late because football's fickle. If Lacazette bags until the end of the season, guys are going to stop chatting crap. It's all going to be happy days. But he definitely needs to go because for me, it's not even the form thing. I'm not, in fact, now the form plays a part, but it's like he don't fit into the best team. It's like Martinelli has to miss out if Lacazette plays up front, which what Arteta was doing to get kind of, you know, when you're playing a man through the poor form, trying to get him through it. It's like he rubbed him out when it became evident. For me, keep Aubameyang for a year up front, run that deal down. You go with Martinelli and you go with Pepe, or you go with Aubameyang on the left. You know, you do what you need to do with one of the strikers. What do you make of Eddie?
Eddie Nketiah. Oh, I like him, you know.
Your fellow Ghanaian.
Yeah. You see, I only found that out quite late. I saw the last name. I was like, that's a Ghanaian name. I wasn't so sure at first, but I was like, yeah. He's certified Ghanaian. I love that guy, man. Actually, I don't think he's like a player that has a lot to his game, but he has the key things as a striker: good finishing, good movement, quick, happy, boom. You can get a lot of goals out of that boy. Honestly, he's starting to grow. You can see it bit by bit. I think Leeds missed the trick of him when they didn't play him so much on loan. Like, they should have played him a lot more. He should have been a starter for them, especially because players like Bamford's not a convincing striker. So, you know, I'm happy that you guys took him back, because if I'm looking at a player in terms of just like doing all the rivalry aside for his development, right now he's in the right place. And I think Arteta is going to be the right coach to get him to the level that you guys want him to. The guy is good, man. I like him.
Oh, do you know, it's funny you say that, because I'm still not sure of his level, like, in a positive way. Like, I think he could be a player here, but whether he wants to be a squad player or a Premier League level player is down to him. One thing I like about the Leeds loan, and I'm only learning it in hindsight, because on paper, you know, it weren't the best of loan spells. He didn't play 100-odd games. We weren't looking at it like he has to be involved next season. His loan was cut short. But since he's come back, he's looked a bit strong. Obviously, he's not the biggest, and that was one thing. He's looked stronger. Like, it was either Newcastle or Everton. Ironically, the game he didn't score in was the game I think he played better than. I was thinking, you're jumping up high, you're weighting people, you're throwing yourself about, and you're not the smallest guy. So I thought, has he been learning that being obviously he's not been playing at Leeds, but he's been involved in that training and big centre halves and stuff. He looks a bit stronger, and he must have learned stuff under Bielsa that I won't necessarily see. I mean, it's a quality coach for as much criticisms as I have. Like, there must be something there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, especially in the Championship and the games you play, it's going to be a lot more physical down there. The lower you go in the leagues, the more physical it gets, especially with the defenders. They love a tall, strong defender that's brutal and give you kicks and all that kind of stuff. That's their nature. Yeah, so that I think you're right then. Bielsa's a top coach, man. Whether people, I know he's not been successful in terms of that many trophies or anything like that, but the guy is a good coach regardless. In the end, I think that if you're from that perspective, the loan was important for his development, because now you're starting to see the growth in his football. And I think if he has that physicality and then learns the technical side from Arteta, then you're building a player there. If you ask me what I think he's going to become for you in terms of a squad player or an important Premier League player, I think he is going to probably develop into a squad player, a guy sort of like a Jermaine Defoe mold. Yeah. So Jermaine Defoe, obviously good goal scorer for Spurs, for many other clubs that he played for, but at the same time he was also a rotational option at Spurs when they had Robbie Keane, Canute, Berbatov. He wasn't the star. Obviously, when he went to a team with low expectation at Portsmouth, it was him and Crouch, so he was the starter. So for you guys, I think he can be that guy, but he knows how to find the back of the net, and that's very important. So having him in the team, having that depth, I think you should keep him. I think he's going to be a squad player, but also quite important for you guys in the fact that you can also rely on him to do a job for you.
And that's what I want him to become. But at the same time, yeah, and there's one thing I'm envious about Chelsea now. Like, whether any Arsenal fan believes in Eddie or not, I look at Arsenal and think, to protect your assets. He's contracted until 2022. Now, if we look at his progress, for want of better words, from a year from now till now, he's gone from being a sort of young player to sort of a young squad player now / rotation option. Like, at a point, Lacazette was being kept out the side by him. So for me, you sign that man to a new deal because he's contracted until 2022. Like, this is now a 30, maybe even 40, anything, let's say anything from 20 to 40 million pound player now. Let's protect him. Arsenal not doing that. Where if you look at Chelsea, you know, they're in talks for Tammy, Callum signed, Reece James signed, Loftus-Cheek, Billy Gilmore, Adrian now. They're all signed till 2024. So they're protecting their assets. Final question, though, with these young players, and real final one now, yeah. Joe Willock, I want to hear, I ask you this because I'm not going to lie, I'm a big fan of Joe, but he's not the young player I have the most affiliation to. So I wanted to see it from a outsider's point of view, someone that don't really have any time for Joe like that and isn't really, you know, affiliated like that. What do you make of Joe?
He is a decent young player, but I don't think he makes the cut. If I'm being honest, I don't think he's the guy that you're going to look to maybe in about 3 years when he's a bit older and say now he's developed. Unless he goes through some crazy growth right now as a player where I look at him and think, wow, like he's become a player out of nowhere. Right now, I'm just not convinced. I think that might be the more harsh, brutal side of me. But if I'm being honest, you know, I'm not trying to compare him to the youth that you've brought up in the past, but there's a level, and he is not of that level for me. So I wouldn't look at him and think, yeah, he's the guy for you. In my opinion, I think he'll be more of a player that would make the mold at like a Palace or maybe an Everton. I mean, someone like Tom Davies, the expectation was high of him at first, but he's not a bad player. He's just not special, in my opinion. So I don't look at Willock and think, yeah, this is a special guy. I just look at him and think, you're okay. I know I can see why you've made it as a footballer. You are talented. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think you are going to be the player that starts in the midfield or even makes the bench consistently for Arsenal in the future. So I would say cut your losses with him maybe in about a year or two if he doesn't continue to develop in the rate that you would want him to.
See, for me, I agree 100% with everything he said, but I think I'm always wary of players that can surprise you, and I think he's got that surprise element to me. I don't think he's going to go off and be, in my opinion, you know, Saka and Martinelli. I think that I want to be wrong in this. I want to see him make it as a 10 at Arsenal just because it proves me wrong, but I can't sit here and say I'm going to see him make it there. Clearly, the club, there might be something internally to give him a chance there because they're seeing something. Arteta, Lombard, Emre, I'm missing someone else out, but there's not Wenger. I'm missing someone else out, but let's just say 3 managers have played him in that role. So they must either the club have said he's the one we're playing there, or they must see something. Like we spoke earlier, I don't think, and he doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't think the way he manipulates the ball or tries to get on the ball is good enough. I don't think he breaks the line well enough. I don't think his decision making is well enough. That being said, academy levels, and like you said, it shows the levels. The academy levels he could play there. I think since he's been introduced in the first team by Wenger actually played him in the pivot, like where Xhaka or Ceballos currently would play. I think that's him. Because I think against Liverpool, he played well there. He scored a banger. I think he's got the legs. He's got the energy. There's less emphasis on having to be... Obviously, you need to be expansive, but there's less emphasis on having that final ball and things like that. But even with Joe, we've got... For Arsenal, because United, you lot will have money. We've got to turn these players into 20 million plus. Like, if Nelson doesn't make it, 20 million. Maitland, 20 odd. Do you get it? Emil.
Yeah.
And that's another one. Emil Smith-Rowe is someone I want to see given an opportunity, but... the harshness in me, bro. It's like, can all these young players have a future here? Or is it like, if you're not Saka and Martinelli, then if you're not on that sort of stuff, then is it a cut in the loss thing? Like, if you're not on the Greenwood thing like you're seeing, is it a cut in the loss thing? Like, if you're not Phil Foden at United City, is it...
You know, you're going to have some players that are that have to know their role. If Smith Rowe doesn't become like a starter for Arsenal, if he knows his role, because I think he's got big potential. I actually like him a lot. That's another player I'm quite envious that you have, to be honest. I'm not like saying that out loud, but but I'm not gonna lie to myself. I actually have not big expectations, but I think he can become a top player. So that's someone I'll keep. However, if he doesn't become that, you do have to have some squad players. I was saying get rid of Willock, but if he knows his role and he plays it, then there's no reason to completely dash him. If he knows he's like a sort of like a player on the fringe, or he can play a couple games and he's satisfied with that, I mean, that for me is not ambitious. But if he wants to do that, then please, go ahead.
By all means, yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of high level players like I say Arteta, like Martinelli and Saka, who have big potential and you can see it from the jump. If they're not of that level and they're not happy, then please, the door's that way, bro. Get the hell out of this club. We've got to be levels. This is Arsenal Football Club. You know what I mean? A lot of my friends are going to watch this and they're going to come back to me and say, oh, yeah, you respect Arsenal that much. Yes, I do. It is what it is, isn't it? But, at the end of the day, bro, you're a huge club. You are a huge club. And the levels that you have set in the Premier League, even though in the last couple of years it hasn't been the same, regardless, your name is big. Therefore, if you're going to produce top players and you're going to have top players, they have to be the best or around the best.
Yeah. And
that's the be all and end all. So if these guys are not good enough, one by one, please go somewhere else. Go and enjoy your football somewhere. It's levels out here, man. Arsenal are a club with levels. And by the way, you can't be letting North London White come and take over your turf anyway.
We need to start. I can't even tell. When was the last time we won a derby, man? Did we win when Guendouzi set up a Aubameyang? Can't remember the last time. That's something that annoyed me.
Oh no, you won. Did you win that one when Torreira scored his first goal?
Yes, this is what I'm saying. Like before, they're not coming. It's not coming to memory again. Like that's one thing that annoys me. I can tell you every time. Like I've never known how it's felt to be like United. Like you lot have bullied the Prem. But I say in comparison to Spurs, like just United, you're going to win stuff. Growing up, that was the closest I got to feeling like that. You knew it was going to beat up Spurs, and that's probably the difficult one. I say another difficult one is seeing Liverpool succeed. Not because I don't have a problem with Liverpool. I just remember if a player was linked with Arsenal, obviously you're going to hear it, but if it was Arsenal and Liverpool, it was kind of even. Like I remember they offered Alexis Sanchez more money and they came to us and they had a poorer squad. Now their squad is dramatically better than ours. Now, honestly, if you pick as an Arsenal fan, if you pick Liverpool over Arsenal at this period in time, I think you ain't got ambition. Like if you're French and the French ties and the London thing plays into it, cool. But you don't pick Liverpool or Arsenal over Liverpool. Sorry, that's so tough for me to deal with now. Like seeing us lapped. And it's only really been 2 seasons for Liverpool. But it's been, how long have they been brewing this? Because I remember criticising Ox. Because I was looking at Ox, I was like, why are you going Liverpool? Because at the time, it was a sideways move. Like it was. You was linked with Chelsea, who I'm pretty sure won the league or whatever fairly recently. But they must have sat down and told Ox, this is what we're trying to do. You're going to be the first of many sort of players coming through the door. He didn't play, but he won Champions League there. It's like, it's difficult. And I think United will be back quick soon enough because it's in you lot's DNA. Like you lot's fans don't sit and take this sort of stuff. Like you lot, after a while, something has to give in it. Like even Woodward's feeling the pressure. Arsenal's a bit different because we all clubs are, but we are a dictatorship. Like fans can't change anything. Like we're here with these young players. I do think Arsenal love projects. Like we had remember the first homegrown one with Wilshere, Ramsey, etc. We had that team. Then you saw Santi, Alexis, Ozil come in and we said financial issues not a problem. We can go and do this thing. We said we just need a striker and a defender. Now we're in this thing, bro. Like with these young players. And then it's gonna be you need this and that. It's a mad though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I've praised Arsenal on this. I'm not gonna give Liverpool any word of praise on this platform at all. I'm not doing that. That's just not coming out of my mouth. So I'm just gonna say I hear what you said, and if that's what people agree with, then so be it. Me personally, I'm not gonna say anything about that club. I can't do it.
Oh, you're killing me. It's been lovely speaking though, man. Like we got to do this shit again, man. Seriously.
Sorry, even I'm gonna hold you soon because now we're doing player highlights of certain players, past or present, and I got a load of Arsenal guys on the list, and I know which ones I think you'll be absolutely perfect for. So,
shout me with that, man.
Especially shout for that too. And also, just want to say also, bro, a lot of people don't like this whole big nut people on their platform. I'm going to do it because it's facts. Your platform and how you interview the younger players, that's something that a lot of people have just neglected. Like, that's so key. You approach the youth, you talk to them, allow them, you know. No, it's facts though. I'm not even gonna chat. Like, I've anytime I've ever bigged up someone on social media, I always mean it. I've always told, I'm brutal with my friends. I've got a friend that's in music right now. I haven't promoted one of his songs because I told him, bro, I'm not feeling it. So if I'm not feeling it, I'm just, that's just life. If I don't do that, I'm not a real friend. I'm telling you straight.
Oh, man, my chest, I can't laugh. Like, ooh.
I told him straight. So, like, you know, even today I promoted one of my boys' music because his music's good, you know. So, you know, with you guys, you Tap In, Beautiful Game, like, for example, just like I mentioned you three because right now you three, I think for me, are my favorites.
Not my deed, bro.
Like, what you're doing with the youth, and then also what you're doing even beforehand with noticing certain players in other countries and in this country at young ages with their ability. I'm like, bruv, who the heck's this guy? And then I watch him like, oh my goodness, this guy's a wavy. And then he comes to the foot, gets a move, and then you watch the player like, yeah. See, this is why Deluded is my guy. So honestly, bro, keep doing what you're doing, man. Because honestly, like, for a lot of football fans, I think it's very important. For someone like me that's a coach, you know, it helps me improve my the way I view young players, the aspects, and what I would want from a young player. Because if I do achieve what I want to achieve and become a manager one day, I need to know what I want in my own young players in the future. And your platform does a lot for people like me and people that love the game of football so much. So, and you keep us, you know, updated with the young guys in the future, because that's something that's not really highlighted as much as it should be. So keep doing what you're doing, man, because people like me, we appreciate it, man. Real talk.
You're gassing me, man. There's someone I know personally saying that, I always find it not weird, but it's like, it makes me want to go harder, man. I appreciate your kind words, my guy, man. But
Real
like
thing,
I
man.
said, we got to do this soon, man. But until then, take care, my dude.
You too, bro. Peace.
Peace.